this guy was like, this is a gift. And I was reading it. I was in the lounge room and I was like 10 pages to go. And I'm like wheezing with crying. And my 2-year-old roomie was in the room and I was trying to like keep it in to like, not to like scare her or like shit. I was like, like reading this. Oh, I'm not going to lie. I'm worried and a little bit hesitant about sharing this episode with you, but I know that's actually why we're here. And the best thing for me to do is to actually share this out with you. As the genesis of me wanting to do this show and the reason why and what I wanted to actually share with you on this show is really coming about because there's been so many changes that I've been able to go through and things that I want to be able to figure out and really take you on this journey as well. So you can get the shortcuts, you can get the answers, you can get what it is that you're really looking for to be able to build the life that you really want. And Ryan, that you're about to meet in just a second, saw one of my social media posts, which was really just me opening up about me trying to figure my stuff out, especially with life and business. And he reached out wanting to interview me for his show. So this is actually me getting interviewed, and it's a real raw and open conversation about me figuring out what's happening in life, getting to a point in life where I've been able to very gratefully, very thankfully achieve so much, but also being in a bit of a hole where it was just over a year ago, I was in a depressive episode to now really loving life, really seeing that things are opening up. And how the hell did that all happen? Well, that's what we're going to dive into right now. And I hope you really enjoy this interview with myself and the amazing Ryan.
How do you want me to introduce you? I think this is something that I've had to learn to re-appreciate for myself. Some of these things that you went hard for and you achieved. Mm-hmm. Like have you done $1 million in business before?
Yeah. We'll do a couple $1 million a year in business. And I currently now work 9.5 hours a week. I'm a father of 4 daughters. I've been married for over 10 years now. I'm in the best shape and health that I've ever been in now at 35. I love studying philosophy right now. I also have no idea what the fuck's going on in my life because I think I'm going through something that I've never gone through before. And luckily, and I think this is probably why we're talking today, but luckily I've had some really great conversations with some colleagues and friends over the past literally 2 weeks. Like this is so fresh. It's like it's an open bleeding wound, you know, and you could kind of say right now. Yeah. And I toy between what are the things of achievement that I have had in life and does that actually really matter?
Beautiful. So I'm just going to use what you just said as the podcast intro. So Chris, so good to have you on, brother. That was perfect though. And it's like, I love one thing that I think I struggle with through my equivalent of this, just like, I feel like people will probably go through something like this at some point if they're on the journey of achievement. But when I kind of went through what I'm making the assumption is an equivalent stage of my life, shame was a really big thing. I felt ashamed of the fact that I wasn't succeeding. So I was more private in that process and didn't feel as, I don't want to completely discredit the way I approached it, but I appreciate that you said it's a fresh bleeding wound. I saw your post the other day, which was why I reached out to do this, which was, hey, I've got no idea what the fuck I'm doing with my life. And that's where I am. I can't remember exactly what you said and I'm right in it. And I just want to let you guys know or something. And that's so courageous and beautiful. And I feel like that dissolves any associated shame and stops the spiral. And then it sounds like you're giving yourself permission to just be in it and seeing with curiosity where it leads.
I think, I think acceptance and curiosity are 2 amazing things to be able to hold as we go through life. And I think there becomes a point, I hope there becomes a point in which we can look ourselves in the eyes and sit truest to ourselves and answer the question, am I living my best life? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And being able to figure our way out and also knowing that we're just making it up as we go along and being at peace with that as well. Like so many great questions in life, there's a paradox to it. Like literally this morning I had a private philosophy mentoring session. We were studying Nietzsche this morning and I was like, wow, this is so interesting because he threw such a paradox into what Buddha was saying, what the Greeks were saying, what doing the Upanishads were saying. And he was saying God is dead. And look, some of his teachings were totally drastic and thrown off. Like the Nazis took what he said and ran with it. But there was also, there's a play that we have to do, and that kind of structure that we have to try and figure out is a good thing. And I think that's why I got to the point where it was, I don't know, not even 2 weeks ago, I was like, what the fuck is going on right now in my life? Like, I felt like everything was getting in turmoil. I was questioning everything. I was like, okay, I'll give you a couple of real examples. And as I said, at the start, this is extremely fresh. Normally when you listen to someone in an interview, their concepts, their ideas, the things they're talking about have been extremely fleshed out. Like they've gone through it. Dude, I'm talking to you just like I talk with any of my close friends and mentors right now. Like I have no
brought
idea
you
what's
on here for this exact reason, because I feel like I just had a sense that you have the safety and self-worth in your nervous system to allow you to explore it while it's fresh. And I think it's going to be more valuable for people. And I really appreciate you bringing forth that vulnerability and that the sensitivity to what's actually going on, knowing that you're such a fucking weapon in life up until this point. And there's just like the future is infinite, whatever is going to happen. And I feel like I just have so much more respect for you, the fact that you're able to come in this in the transition zone. Because usually what you see online, like you just said with the podcast interviews and social media, is people are sharing their hindsight perspectives on what they've gone through, but very rarely in the actual pain of the confusion or the unknown. And so thank you so much, man, for bringing that in.
No, dude, I appreciate that. And it's like, Jimmy, if we were to do a conversation like, Chris, how do you build a business? Dude, I can rattle off shit that I know I can do with my eyes closed, you know what I mean? Because we've done this for so long. And so obviously I've mastered a skill there. But when it comes to this conversation, which lights me up so much more, let me just break this down and maybe give some context. This can be a therapy session right now. This is going to be fun. And so over the past little while, last year I had depression. And when I had depression, I felt worse because I was saying to myself, I have no right to be depressed. I have an amazing family. I have a great marriage. We just moved back to Australia for a little while. We're currently back in Bali now. I have an amazing business. Like I was checking the boxes of life, right? And I think this is something that may be important for the listener right now.
You still are, by the way. I remember looking at your journey and I don't feel like you could epitomize more of what the average dude dreams of creating. Like you're like a super sexy dude that's in amazing shape, that lives in paradise, that does a passion-driven business to help people with their lives, make a shit ton of money doing it. I mean, have an amazing family. Like looking at your family was when I've noticed you and looked at your journey and seen your stuff come up, that I've been most inspired by, when I'm like, wow, you got a beautiful, gorgeous partner. You got a beautiful young family. And so like you have the epitome of what I feel the average dude would aspire to create. And this is why this is even more valuable, what you're sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I consciously created that. There became a point where in that depressed state, I was like, I have no right to feel like this. I have checked the boxes of life. And I felt like I was lied to. I felt like I was like, fuck you. I did what you said I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to be fulfilled. I've done it all. And it was then when I started I'm currently writing an essay right now. And the essay is to answer the question, is the man that can fulfill all his desires really happy? And so it's been interesting because I'm just doing it purely to answer it for myself. I'll share it with you, Ryan, after this. It's not fully finished. I'll share it to you and you tell me your thoughts.
Cool.
And it's just been interesting because we can get on a treadmill of wanting to succeed more and trying to go down that path. But let me ask you this, Ryan. You've achieved a lot of things, dude, right? We've known of each other for quite. Any of the things that you set out to achieve and that you did achieve, Ryan, did any of those things give you lasting happiness and fulfillment?
None, no.
No, none. I don't have any on my list either.
the thing that caused me to shut my business down, there were some karmic consequences of trying to grow too fast. So I had some turbulence, some financial hardship and whatnot, but I kind of like navigated that and then was like, fuck, like I've had everything that I wanted. Like I've got this business that's really successful. I've got a beautiful, gorgeous partner. And for me, I personally felt like broken down and alone when I had all the things. And I was like, why am I feeling so shit? And I looked at other people and I saw more of a grounded sense of self-worth in people that had a lot less success than me. That was kind of my journey. I was looking at people and I was like, I can tell that I'm trying to prove myself to this. When I go into this room, I can feel my insecurity when I became aware of it, at least. I was like, I'm trying to go in and prove myself and say the numbers and the figures of what I've achieved. This guy's hasn't even started a business, and I can feel more of a grounded sense of self in him than I can in myself. And I've got every reason to feel confident, but I'm not. And so that was like one hint. I didn't even care about fulfillment at that point. I just cared about fulfilling my potential. But I was frustrated by the fact that I still feel insecure. So that was kind of my initial kind of like realization.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, dude, that's huge. And that was the thing, is like, we've gone after and achieved all of these things, yet it hasn't given us what we thought it was going to give us. So then why would we think achieving more is going to fix the problem? And so for me, it was like drinking seawater, trying to quench your thirst, but it only makes you thirstier. And that's where I don't know, I've gone through what I've gone through in the past few years, and then even recently, and I'm just like, hang on, let me actually really question what's happening right now. And for me personally, what got pointed out to me was what a great author, Alison A. Armstrong, she's got a couple of great books, but what's called Going from Prince to King. And I was like, supposedly I'm going through the tunnel now, going from Prince to King. And it's been really interesting to see how I'm going through it and what's coming up for me. And one thing was the killing of my ego to birth something else out of this. And so why don't we make the very first public thing that I'll come out with? So this is the first time ever I've publicly talked about this. After talking with a few people, they were like, you should change your name. Like all of these changes and everything, like you should change your name. And so it was really weird because the day before I did an exercise a friend and a colleague suggested, which was on a piece of paper on the left-hand side, write down the things you love about yourself. On the right-hand side, write down the things you don't love about yourself. Then on a new piece of paper, write a to-be list, right? And you go through things you love about yourself, and you can flip around the things you don't love yourself, and you're like, don't do a to-do list, do a to-be list. And I went through that process, and you've got to name it. Give yourself a name, that new person, that new, do you know what I mean, entity. And I called myself Christopher, which is the name I was born with. But I've gone from being Chris, like forever. I think it was only my parents, do you know what I mean, that would call me Christopher at certain times. Yeah. But there was something for me that just felt like this, I actually have to mark this as someone different. And I did feel like that. We were talking, I think, but even before we hit record, 9 years ago, I can't relate to that person that was back then. And so for me, it was then being like, okay, how do I now operate? What is the values? What is the essence that I'm going to now make my decisions from? And that's what I'm currently going through. I can't give you that exact answer because that's what I'm in the midst of right now, but I have been questioning everything. And I think this could be a great thing for many to do, is to literally give yourself the time, space, stillness, silence, and to be able to then question, where are you operating from and what is it you're doing? So a couple of examples it wasn't that long ago, I was in the gym. I've been someone that I was a personal trainer from 18 years old, been in that game for quite some time, and I love it. But I was in the gym and I just stopped and I stood there in the middle of the gym for like 2 or 3 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like a proper 2 or 3 minutes, just standing there. And I was like, do I want to be this person? Do I actually want to be the person that rocks up to the gym and does this? Like, do I just want to be a fat dude? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was literally questioning, like, who do I want to show up as? And then I went through everything. I even questioned, do I want to be in this marriage? Like, I've been happily married for over 10 years now with beautiful, gorgeous woman, Lauren, and I'm so blessed. But I was like, I have to properly sit in this and ask myself, do I want to be in this marriage? Do I want to be the father that I'm showing up with for my 4 daughters? Do I want to be this friend? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Is this the business that I want to run? Is it like all of these things? And it's a tolling process. I found it a very tolling process. Like, it's been very consuming for me going through this. But I think it's amazing because what's starting to appear now is more than I could ever have dreamt for. And that's how I feel right now.
Thank you for sharing that, dude. How do you feel about me sharing like this? Because you were talking about the Upanishads. I've spent like a ridiculous amount of time studying the Vedas, like the Bhagavad Gita, and like your ancient yogic wisdom is more of like what I've dove into. And the question that I want to introduce or just put into this conversation for us to like philosophize on, and like for the listeners to start to think about as well, is what happens if we don't, because you were talking about this is how I've been showing up, but is it actually how I want to show up? And it's like you start to question things and like bring the awareness to it. And then there's the idea of what if you, and then there's like, what do I actually want? But what if there's no control of the future? Mm-hmm. And there's more of like a trusting the moment to moment process. Mm-hmm. And there's this concept in ancient Vedic wisdom called, I don't even know what it's called, but the way that it works is like the 3 stages of evolution or change. And there's creation, maintenance, and destruction. And they talk about this idea that we have a relationship to everything in our life. Like you have a relationship with Lauren, you also have a relationship with each individual that's in your life and your business. You've got a relationship to your individual business, different parts of your business as a whole, your health, the different parts of health, fitness, the different parts of fitness, and they're all mini relationships. And every relationship is either sitting in the creation, maintenance, or destruction phase. And so if it's in a creation phase, you're like building something new, and then it maintains for a while it's still relevant, and then it hits a point where it starts to become irrelevant. And then the kind of like concept is that as it starts to become more irrelevant, the destruction operators, as it's kind of like characterized in this Vedic wisdom, because they like to use stories and characterization to teach. It's like the destruction operators start whispering hints at the need to change for something, and you get little like whispers, and then the whispers become louder, and then you start getting a real rude awakening. That's what happened with me. Like the destruction operators were trying to give me feedback that I needed to change my relationship to success and my self-worth and business for fucking ages. And it took like a sledgehammer of like an executive stealing a bunch of money from me and a bunch of stuff for me to go fuck, and adrenal fatigue. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm forced to listen, and I've got more karmic consequences as a result. And it's the idea that we don't have to necessarily, this is the concept that I want to introduce and get your thoughts around that might help create some more peace for where you're at as well, which is everything is naturally communicating what's needed next to us. And so like if it will be a slow burn transition for your relationship if that was there and you'd feel it. So it's being more like sensory aware. And I feel like with you and I, because we are like so driven and we want to make the most of our life, we just like find the way to win and conquer and do the best that we can with things, which is coming from a place of control. And that's the same, like that's an asset, that's a skill. But it also comes with this like this really strong grip of the future. And like it takes us out of our perceptive awareness of what's present, our ability to tune into without any pressure or attachment or stress to change anything, because we already presuppose that where we are is perfect. And then it's just being perceptively aware of where we're being guided to next. It's a lot more graceful and effortless because whatever's meant to happen, we're naturally leaning in towards. What are your thoughts on that?
I love this. A few things come up for me. One, I think, is just the beauty of acceptance and how it really is accepting. Joseph Goldstein says that whenever there is struggle, it is simply because you're not accepting something. And I just think that's so spot on. Like that is etch that into stone. If there's ever struggle, it's simply because you're not accepting something. There was a great Suzuki Roshi, an amazing Buddhist teacher. There was one of his disciples, this guy studied under Suzuki for years. It was like over 3 years. And this disciple said to him, Master, I have listened to everything that you said. I've been studying under you for years, but still with Buddhism, still with all of this, I'm not understanding it. Please, can you just boil this down? Please, can you just give it to me in like one sentence? And Suzuki turns around and just says, he's asking a lot. The Suzuki turns around and just says, everything changes, and then asks for the next question. And I was just like, brilliant. Like I get goosebumps every time I think it say about that, because it's like everything changes. That's the nature of life. That is the nature of life. And then what I find so interesting is whether it's good, whether it's bad, and we're supposed to be able to have both in our life as well, which is interesting because I'll bring something up about a thought I literally had yesterday to show that I'm going through this shit right now, is the acceptance of what is. And so our third daughter, we named Rumi, and my favorite Rumi quote I have printed up in my office wall here, which is the guest house. Can I read it really quickly? Right?
Dude, go for it.
Okay. So it's the guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight, a dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them all at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
That's a fucking powerful quote.
Yeah. And I was just like, that's good. And why I've got a few things printed on my wall here, because I literally want to be able to use these as like a compass for direction. And like, I think when you talk about, to bring this back to your actual question, especially like with the Vedic knowledge, I like to use the word faith, and not in a religious context, but a faith in, for me, the way that I call it, like I can happily use the word God. I try not to have, crazy, especially not Christian attachment to that word, but the universe, the higher good, whatever you kind of want to see it, like there is an unfolding that is meant to be, that is it our karma? Maybe, that's one way to look at it. Is it fate? That could be another way to look at it, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And I think that's where it doesn't actually matter which lens you want to look that through. If you at least accept it, then there's an opening up to it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I only say this because I'm trying to drink my own medicine right now. I'm simply trying to accept what is happening and opening up to it, and being that, like, rather than, like, we both know this, like, we could run through walls to make shit happen. Do you mean, like, that's how so much of our success before was made? But what I have found for myself is what got me here won't get me there. And this is when I sat in the space of, okay, who do I need to become so that I can truly be what I want to be, experience what I want to experience, just be. And it wasn't the constant doing and achieving, which I put under the archetype a warrior, right? And so we were really good warriors. And for me, the shift is going from a warrior to like a king, but I like to think of the image of a wizard. I want to move into like what a wizard. Now, a wizard isn't going to be, sitting there working his ass off, 16 hours a day. He knows exactly when he needs to strike his star. He gets the job done and he walks away in a blaze of glory, right? He has the wisdom to know what it is. It's like, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Knowledge is knowing that. Sorry, you're going to say?
Instead of a mic drop, it's a staff drop. You just like,
it's a staff drop. Yeah, no, dude, it totally is. It totally is. But that's like the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it into a fruit salad, right? So there's the actual using of it properly. And for me, I want to give the example, and like I want to be as transparent as possible. So business is amazing. It felt, especially at the end of last year, it felt hard. It didn't feel fun. It felt very friction. like there was a lot of friction that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, there was just things I was like, oh, this isn't flowing. Like, what is going on? And I made a bunch of different changes. And we went from, like, the reason why we started this conversation today was because I had the only meetings that we actually hold inside of the company once a month. We do a couple of monthly reviews and that's it. And we had all sorts of meetings during the week. And then there was some sort of like daily huddles and all that. And I was just like, no, don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we made all of these drastic changes. Personally, for me, I was like, I don't want to manage a sales team. Managing a sales team to me feels like I'd rather poke my eyes out with a spoon. Do you know what I mean? I just don't want to do it. And so I didn't. I found a solution for it. Like I've made things so easy. And so my process now is I'm actually really struggling sitting in a space of everything is really good and I don't feel worthy of it. And I know that I'm still sitting in a warrior and not embracing the wizard, because a wizard is able to sit there and have everything work with ease, with grace, and it not be filled with turmoil. And that's what I'm struggling with right now. And I know, like, if anyone listening right now sounds like I'm playing the world's smallest violin, dude, I get it. Like, I laugh at myself when I bring this stuff up. And it's
what do you mean by that, the world's smallest violin?
Well, like, oh, Chris, cry me a river. You've got such a big problem. You only work 9 hours a week and your business does literally millions of dollars a year. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, shit, dude, there's bigger problems in the world. Do you know what I mean? And I will be the first to be like, yeah, there are bigger problems in the world. And that's where I'm like,
you're not asking for sympathy. You're sharing your wisdom because the universe sees that you as a worthy provider of wisdom, even if the wisdom is not having clarity. And so, yeah, I know you don't actually think that, but yeah, I feel like it points to a bigger problem. Like, you're not the problem. The problem is the society's putting things on a pedestal without telling the full story. And I'm just grateful that you're sharing that journey and the mess of it all.
Thanks, dude. And like, we see out in the world so many people succeeding, great things, or like you're flicking through social media and you're like, whoa, this person must be killing it. But you and I, we know a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes with, do you know what I mean, quote unquote, successful people. And a lot of the time I've been like, I don't want that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that's the price you pay to achieve that one thing, that's not me. That's just not the path I want to go down. And that's why I want to bring these conversations to light and be like, hang on, like, what is a life worth living? What is the context of this? How are you defining success or happiness or fulfillment? And once we have some sort of working definition, can we work backwards and figure out, well, what do we need to be? Who do we need to be able to then do the things for us to then achieve the things that we're kind of like going for? And I'm just trying to figure that out right now. Like, I think I've got I'm starting to get a grasp on it, but I definitely don't have an answer.
Well, I hope you get a grasp quicker than I did, because it took me 4 years.
Well, we can continue to have these conversations and see if Chris figures his shit out.
Oh, dude, I want to. Have you read King Warrior Magician Lover, the book?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. The thing that I find interesting, that I spent 18 months trying to come up with an answer or a philosophy that could serve me in this question of like just fulfillment in life and purpose and whatnot. And I kind of, for myself, got to a point where I boiled it down to being in your heart or being in your head. Being in your heart, the heart desires growth, change, evolution. The heart being like a symbol for spirit or soul or something like that, synonym. And the head is like our human self that wants stability and safety as the primary motive. And so we have the heart that desires change through the unfamiliar, desires growth through the unfamiliar and fulfillment. And then we have the head that wants safety through familiarity. So we have this like inner conflict regularly, where we have two parts of ourselves, our like heart or our essence or our the unmanifest in human form, or the divine, or whatever we want to call it. And we have a head that's desiring safe. Because I was trying to figure out, like, there's so many different approaches to life. There's so many different philosophies, and every thought leader's got a different strong opinion on it. And I was like, I just know that none of these extremes are creating fulfillment. Because I did the meditation route. I meditated like 2.5 hours a day for like years. Like, just became a meditation teacher and detached and learned to just embrace the connection, and spent a lot of time doing spiritual practices. And then I spent a lot of time in business growing, and then I tried to do a hybrid, and I was just like confused and all over the place. And what I came up with was fulfillment to me is the purpose of life. Fulfillment, the way I define it, is the consistent quality of the experience of one's life. But a lot of people think experience equals fun and joy and holidays, because that's the contrast to them living the life they don't like, working a job that they don't like. But to me, the consistent quality of the experience of one's life is purely created through being in the heart. And what is needed to be in the heart, being in, you could also call it being in alignment, is different in every moment. And so I came up with this model of this, what I perceive to be the model of fulfillment, which is a 3-step process to go from the head to the heart, which is awareness, discernment, and courage. It's like, first and foremost, if we're in our head and we're feeling suffering or confusion or overwhelm or some like disempowering emotions like frustration and apathy or guilt, shame, whatever it is, then in that moment, awareness is the first thing, being aware that that's going on, and then connecting to that awareness, connecting to our inner compass, and then feeling into and discerning what's needed to be courageous and do to return to the heart. And that the options are either execution, experience, or exploration. Execution being more of the masculine giving to the world. And sometimes if like I rock up on a particular day and I'm feeling like shit, there's something I need to do. There's a conversation I need to have. Sometimes it's like, I just need to fucking launch that business. I just need to make those changes to the sales team. I just need to ask my wife to make love, like whatever the tangible thing is. Sometimes it's the feminine, and I need to receive. What's needed to return back to the heart for me in that moment is I need to receive. I need to experience life. So it's like noticing the sunshine on my skin. Sometimes it's like, I just want to go get a fucking massage. Sometimes it's I want to enjoy nature or play some music. And that's more of the feminine receiving from my perspective. Or if there's just some fucking massive piece of resistance there, then it's exploring and digging and excavating and figuring out what the fuck is that? Where's it coming from? And that's when like breath work or meditation or a psychotherapy session with working on inner child work or somatic or emotional release work. That's my field of expertise, like all of that deep inner work stuff. And that's where I'm like a master coach in. So I've just gone, okay, there's not like a right way, but I know that when I'm in my heart, I'm fulfilled. And the thing is, like, the third step is courage. And this is just in my model, just what I've been using to navigate my life that's been really effective and rewarding and fulfilling, is if I discern that what's needed in that moment, I've got a pure perspective like, okay, fuck, I just need to do a Facebook Live right now. And that's what's needed. I can feel it. I know that's what's right. It takes courage to do that if I've got resistance to it. But if I needed to like take some time and just chill out and relax and just lay in the sun, that also takes courage a lot of the time. If I need to look and be vulnerable at what the fuck's going underneath, that also takes courage. And so it's not necessarily what's done. It's like the alignment and relevance for that individual person in that individual moment that causes them to live in fulfillment, causes them to live in their heart, aka be in alignment. And I see that as like a way that I've been approaching life. And there's obviously way more complexity to that. And there's proactive habits and stuff that can cause us to live more in our heart than in our head. But that's how I've kind of been doing my best to wrap my head around that. What are your kind of feelings on that or thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's beautiful, Ryan. I really appreciate that. I appreciate some understanding that I might have from the stuff that you've got to go through to be able to start joining those dots and coming to me into that. So thank you, dude. That's amazing. And like, yeah, when you're talking about, I did weekly psychotherapy for like 18 months. I've done shit tons of psychedelics. I've done somatic healing. I feel like I have done it all. And there's nothing wrong with that as well. That's a different conversation, especially when it goes down like wanting to chase the mystical. But For me, what comes up when you say that stuff is I just would maybe use some different wording. And again, like the words are just pointing to something deeper at the end of the day. And so me is like mindfulness. So I think maybe if we try and use the example or context of meditation, for example, it's like, well, why do we meditate? Technically speaking, especially if you come from like a Buddhist angle, that there is no goal of meditation per se. In the Western world, we've tried to add, well, it lowers your heart rate, it makes you happier, it does all of these, medical benefits that they can start to like, and there's, well, actually, no, it goes deeper than that. But we want to be mindful. And again, I see a difference between mindfulness and meditation. But anyway, mindfulness, what's the reason to be mindful? That's not the end goal at the end of the day. We want to be mindful because then we can investigate. When we investigate, I like to ask two questions. Is it true and is it useful? So I can see what's going on because I'm being mindful. And from my mindfulness, I can then ask the right questions. I can do the investigation and I can ask, like, is this true? Is what's going on true? Is what I'm feeling true? Is what I need to do true? And is it actually useful? Because it might be true, but it could be completely unuseful for this time or what I'm doing or what I'm trying to get the expectation out of at the end of the day as well. And then from there, I completely agree. Courage, that's the thing that you want to be able to grab hold of and use, because it does take courage to lay in the sun when you think, do you know what I mean? You might have to be working hard. And again, for my own, this is the thing I was actually going to bring up yesterday, right? So in the morning, I'm now a part of my morning routine. I wake up, I drink some water, I meditate, I journal, I go for a walk, I have a sauna, I have an ice bath. And then after my ice bath, there's this place just around the corner.
You go to sleep because your morning was so long.
I was like, I feel incredible. And I'm like, but yesterday was one of my days off. It was a Wednesday. It was one of my days off. And I was sitting there, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting there in the sun drinking some water. And I'm like, am I being hedonistic right now? Am I creating too much of a life around just it being pleasurable? And like, I've gone through, when I moved to Dubai from Sydney to start a fitness business, I slept on a couch for 3 months. I left my wife that was 3 months pregnant, and I had to fly back. Like, I had to set up the business and fly back just in time for her to give birth. Like, I feel like I've gone through plenty of shit, but that's the beauty of it as well. Like those hard times is where we create meaning. That is where character is built. And that is like, we are able to take so much from that. And it was interesting, this thought coming into my head was like, am I taking the piss out of this right now? Like, am I taking this too far? Like, am I not going through the hard times? And again, is it because I'm feeling unworthy about it? Is it because I'm not able to fully grasp it and enjoy it? I'm terrible at celebrating, right? I'm terrible at accepting and receiving joy. And I know it's something that I have to work on for sure. And I have to be able to soften and open up to that as well. And so
this is where I find that interesting. This is where I feel like discernment comes in, because you're saying, am I being hedonistic right now? If you just run a 180 kilometer David Goggins style fucking race and you got to the end and you're sitting in the sun drinking water, you'd be like, this is exactly what's fucking needed right now. But if you just like at the end of a holiday and you know in your heart that you want to be like finishing your essay, but you're like, I can't be fucked or whatever, then maybe what's needed is to do the essay. And that's where I feel like discernment comes in, because I feel like everything is relevant based on the situation. And I know that you're well aware of this, but the one thing that I found really difficult, kind of looking outside of myself to other mentors and influencers and guides and whatnot around the world, is they often preach in extremes. So like David Goggins is about just like going crazy. He's just like unleash the beast. Within Eckhart Tolle's like always just be in the present. I feel like that's got another flavor to it. And I feel like there's all these polarities. And I love, have you heard of the golden mean? That Greek principle of like nothing
Aristotle's
in excess?
golden mean.
Yeah. There's nothing in excess. And it's like this idea that there's a perfect midpoint between two polarities in every situation that's relevant. And that's what is frustrating for me because I like having certainty. I like being like, courage is the fucking answer, or business success is the answer, or if business and family are the two most important things, and I'm just going to crush those things, and then I'm doing the right thing and I can win. I can just settle in that. But when everything's always changing, which is like what you referred to, then I've got less control. I've got to fucking show up in the next moment and discern what's needed. And it feels scary for my mind because it's unpredictable. And that's where that like human minds that like control because it likes the familiar. It wants to stay safe in the familiar, is in direct competition with what creates fulfillment from my perspective, which is being able to accept the present, knowing that it's going to fucking change. I hate that. The fact that I'm going to die, I fucking hate that. The fact that a relationship could end, I fucking like, for me, it frustrates me because I'm like, from at least this part of like, man, that feels fucking scary. I don't want to die. I don't want to know what's next. Like, I like this life. But then on the same token, that's from the standpoint of my head, whereas my heart likes the change and actually gets fulfillment from the change. And this is like, I feel like, yeah.
Can I ask, what's the fear with death for you?
Change. I feel like it's the macro. I feel like it's the biggest macro. If you take like all fear of change and then put it into the biggest version of it for humans, the biggest change that we can have is not being alive anymore. So, I don't know what's next. If I knew what was next, or I decided that I could surrender to what's next, then I wouldn't fear it. And in those moments where I'm like, yeah, I know I'm like from the great beyond and I'm like infinite potential and stored awareness, I'm like, yeah, it's sweet. But when I'm in the moment of my humanity attached to what's currently present, death means shifting and letting go of every single piece of that. And it's the magnification of all fear of every single change because it's the biggest change for me.
Contemplating death is something I come back to. I try to come back to it every day, but I find it really interesting. And like from reading the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, that was a great book. Like, but then you read like Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death. And then I finished reading this book 2 days ago. A friend from the gym, he was just like, I think you're going to enjoy this book. Like, here's a book, and like lent it to me, and it was called When Breath Becomes Air, and it's a book about a neurosurgeon's story. He self-wrote it as he died from lung cancer, and beautifully written, absolutely incredible. This guy was like, this is a gift. And I was reading it. I was in the lounge room and I was like 10 pages to go. And I'm like wheezing with crying. And my 2-year-old roomie was in the room and I was trying to like keep it in to like, not to like scare her or like, I was like, like reading this. And I walked out of the room and then I literally read the last word and then I looked up and my wife just came down the stairs and I just lost my shit. Like I was wheezing with crying. I was so hard. And at one point I started laughing at myself because I was crying so hard. Like it was this deep rooted emotion that got triggered and brought up by this beautiful piece of writing. And I was just like, wow, like death is something so interesting. Like, do we remember what it was like before we were born? No. Well, that's what it's going to be like after death. So do you mean, where does the fear actually come from it at the end of the day? And there's so many spectrums that come from it. And for me, it's not being able to have, my biggest fear right now is leaving this world and not being the best version of myself, not fulfilling the potential that I feel like is inside of me. That's the thing that probably scares me the most. The second would be not being able to have the experiences and to give as much love as I possibly can to my family and friends. That terrifies me.
What I'm curious about, thanks for sharing, brother. What I'm curious about with those two things is they're both what you're giving. They're like, one's giving your best to the world to be your best, and one's giving to everyone that you love. And you mentioned that you struggle to celebrate and have joy, and I can massively relate to this as well. Like, you and I are so similar in so many ways.
Dude, I didn't even celebrate my birthday not that long ago. We went out as a family purely because I was like, I know the girls would really enjoy us going out and like doing something, but like I didn't even tell some of my friends here. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, they're like, why didn't you say anything? I was like, no, I'm just not G'd up by it. It's just like, yeah.
I've got a feeling that your life's about to go ape shit awesome for the reason but for the reason of like, I feel like you're just stumbling onto this and it's just like unearthing. And my question to you is like, I want to tell you a quick thing that I did recently, and then I want to ask, because it's super, super relevant, which is I did San Pedro, which is the grandfather medicine, and it's about non-proving. And I just wanted to be able to support myself to care less about what other people think of me for my own self-worth. I haven't transcended it completely, I can tell you that much, but
I'm with you, brother.
but after that, in the experience, I became aware of all the fucking ways I changed myself to try to look good, to try to fit in, all the stress and pressure that just is in my nervous system every fucking day over everything. I'm walking into a room and I'm like, oh, what would be more? Should I like have my shoulders back? Should I be like stretching while I'm waiting? Should I like say something or should I not say something? Should I compliment, or is that me being a pleaser? Just like constant internal dialogue of like how I could change and iterate. And it's like personal development is like being used as a self-punishment tool to find extra shit that I should do differently. And so I was like, fuck. When I was in the San Pedro experience, also called Wachuma, when I was in this experience, this full day kind of trip, I was just having it all reflected and all the awareness step on it. And I was feeling so much like just overwhelmed with how much pressure I was putting on myself. Then after the trip, for like the 3 weeks after, I could not control myself to not do all my like worst guilty pleasures. I was binge eating like dairy milk chocolate, like Cadbury blocks. I was smashing Cadbury blocks. I hadn't had Cadbury chocolate for like 8 years. Smashing Cadbury blocks, watching porn, fucking, what else was I doing? It's just like, couldn't work at all. Just laying around, watching movies, not even wanting to get out of bed, just crazy shit. And I was in deep self-judgment and shame of all this stuff until it reached a junction point of realizing, I was like, why, what is happening? I was just like literally witnessing the whole thing. Zero control. Like I'm a pretty like disciplined dude, but just could not fucking stop any of this shit. And then I was like, what the fuck's happening? And it's like, because I was going down to the shops to buy some chocolate. And I was just terrified that anyone that I know, either like someone that watches me online, any friends that I know, I'm like, please, could I just like vanish everyone out from the planet where I can just fucking buy this chocolate and binge eat in peace. And then I was like, hang on a second. Why do I give a shit? Why do I give a shit? Who gives it? And I just realized what this fucking medicine or the universe was trying to show me was like trying to free me of the self-judgment, to give me permission to do anything that I wanted. If I don't want to exercise, I don't have to. If I don't want to make money, I don't have to. If I want to, I can. If I want to fucking do cocaine and have sex with 15 prostitutes, I can. I could do anything that I want, because this is my life. And who gives a shit at the end of the day? Why do I care so much? And it made me realize how trapped I was. Even though I'd created like a freedom life and I make really good money, barely working. It's like, do I really have freedom? No, I'm owned by the pressure that resides within, that then gets reflected out to fear of social judgment. And it's like, what the fuck? This is like the biggest opportunity of my entire fucking life. And I just started doing all the shit that I wanted to do guilt-free, whatever it was. And it didn't last very long, because like they weren't things that I necessarily would choose to do ongoing and consistently, because I don't feel super good with some of them, like eating what I want to eat, or choosing to do and spend my time what I want to do, just go max and relax. But it freed me. And I'm curious to know that if you just like did not give a fuck, and you were to give yourself permission to like fully tap out on giving a fuck at all, if there's anything I know there would be, what would you fucking do that's kind of like something that you would never have given yourself permission to do up until this moment? Might be like have sex with 72 fucking chicks at once. It might be like, because you mentioned you're like, do I even want to be fit? Is this who I want to be?
I think I went not through that exactly, but I think over the past while, I've asked myself these questions in a different way, such as like, what is it that I actually want to do? Who is it that I want to be? And literally going through each of the parts and being like everything. I got at one point, I was just being really particular. Like every little moment I was being like, really like, hang on, where am I at right now? Like, what's going on? Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Like, how do I want to show up?
Is there anything that still lingers that answers that question that I asked? I'm just curious because I think it's fun. I think it's fun
for me now. No, I don't. So it's funny from this essay that I'm writing. So I start this essay. I'll spoil the fucking story. I don't care. I start this essay and I say, Ryan, let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and there's a lamp sitting on your bedside table and there's a sticky note saying, rub me on it. So you go, screw it. You rub the lamp and a genie pops out. And the genie's like, your wish is my command. And he goes, also, I'm the cool kind of genie. You can have as many wishes as you want. So what are you going to do? And so essentially what we might do is we go, great. I'm going to have sex with as many women and then with them all at once. I'm then going to fight dragons. I'm going to battle monsters. I'm going to be all the superheroes. You're going to experience absolutely everything at the end of the day. And you're going to try and do all the hedonistic pleasures that you possibly can. But just like everything, and just like why the second bowl of ice cream is never as good as the first bowl of ice cream, you're going to get over it at the end of the day. Like there's hedonic adaptation. And I found it interesting as I was going through the process of writing this, of getting to the point of, well, it has a purpose and there is no good and there is no bad. And this is something I try and come back to often. There is relative truth and there is ultimate truth. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, there is no good and there is no bad, but good is good and bad is bad. And I think there is real wisdom when you can actually truly understand that. When you can sit in the middle and balance between that paradox, you're like, this is good. Because one day, what flavored chocolate was it, Ryan? I've got to know.
Man, every time.
Was it what's the dairy milk chocolate that's got like the gummy bear lollies and stuff in it? What's that one called?
Gummy bears in chocolate?
Yeah, it's got like marshmallow and gummy bears and stuff inside the dairy milk chocolate. Anyway, I used to smash that stuff as well. Dude, I used to hammer that. That was, yeah. But like, if you put that in front of me, I wouldn't want it. I don't think I'd want it. Not in this state that I am right now. I haven't drank alcohol for over 9 years now, and not because I had a drinking problem or anything like that. I just didn't want to continue it. And it's weird because I just turned it off. And I'm not interested in it. It's a great question, dude. And it's something I have to reflect on. And I'm sure I'm going to come back to you often about this and be like, oh shit, you know what I would love to do? Do you know what I mean? Just like, I don't know. But like, this actually came up for me a little while ago. Sorry for interrupting, but this came up for me a little while ago, which was I get pleasure out of doing the things that I'm doing and being who I'm being. And I was looking to see if I had to get pleasure from what so many other people were doing. But I get pleasure out of doing the disciplined person that I am. I get pleasure out of that. Like I eat a very simple diet. And I think this is where the stoic comes out of me, because I was like, I love this. Like, I just mean like this really simple stuff. I love it. I get a kick out of it being so simple. Which is funny because it kind of like it perpetuates itself as it keeps going. And so I don't know, maybe I've brainwashed myself to a point where I can continue on with that stuff. But to me now, when I really sit with myself, it feels true. I'm like, yep, that feels true. That feels right.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Thanks for sharing. And as much.
But if I'm snorting rails off Hooker's backside sometime soon, I'll give you a call and send you a message and be like, dude, maybe
better still, just FaceTime during the experience.
It's very funny.
I love what you just said. And I feel like for me, it's like in the times when I feel like something, can I give myself permission for it? Whatever it is. Because sometimes the permission is like one of the big things that I demonized for myself was permission to work. Like I almost like after I got into more of the flow and surrender. I was questioning everything. And I was like, man, why am I working right now? Where's everything coming from? And it was like this auditing of myself. Same thing with me recently. I was like, you know what? I might drink alcohol again at some point. Doesn't feel, I've been out a few times and had the chance to since, and I haven't maybe drunk for like 13 years or something like that. But I want to be able to if it feels expansive in the moment. Whereas I couldn't before this experience. For me, I couldn't. This sounds like more of a me thing than a you thing at this stage that I shared. Doesn't seem as relevant for you. But for me at the moment, it's like, I didn't give myself permission for the shit that I actually wanted to do. It's like, if I wanted to eat something unhealthy, I'd be like, oh, I couldn't do that. And I'd either do it and feel shame, or I wouldn't do it and just like rob myself of the universe's like intuitive gift in that moment.
Yes. Can I share something? This was a concept a little while ago, and I used this originally with the drinking thing, because I never said to myself, I don't drink. I just stopped. And then when people offered a drink, I'm like, no thanks. Like, just wasn't interested in, you know. The kind of philosophy that I started to run off with, people and places. So depending on the people and places depends on what you might do. Let's say you love Arnold Schwarzenegger, and if you're at Arnie's place in California and he's like, hey, do you want to sit down and smoke a cigar and have a glass of whiskey with me? People and places. You'd be like, let me think about this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to dogmatize myself to a belief set that, oh, I don't drink or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could, but it could, for me, it opened up to be like, if I'm with Ryan and we're doing this thing, then I will do this sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could do this, like, and I could be open to these sort of experiences. So for me, it was like, oh, the people and places helps me have a compass to determine what my choices are going to be in that moment and if it feels right, rather than trying to have this complete rigid structure that suddenly has zero rigidity for me to be able to then do anything outside of this story that I've just told myself at the end of the day.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I love that. People and places. I love your models and the way your mind works. You've got all these like pieces, and you keep pulling from like all these books you've read and like all these philosophers that you've studied. It's like you've got so much wisdom in that mind. It's beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing. People and places. Because you living in Bali right now in this moment?
Yeah, we've been mainly based in Bali now. I've been out of Australia for 10 years, but mainly based in Bali now for 8 years. We've gone back and spent quite a bit of time back in Australia. Like, I've got property up in Sunshine Coast.
So where you
traveled a hell of a lot. No, I'm from Sydney. Oh, cool. From Manly in Sydney. And quite literally right now, Ryan, the biggest question my wife and I are deciding on is, where do we want to move to from the end of this year?
Have you considered Austin?
Oh, fuck, you're fucked up. Yes, I literally have. I've already emailed an immigration lawyer, and it is a very high likelihood. I'm going to be in Austin doing an interview shooting trip in 3 weeks from now. And you're fucked up that you just said that.
Well, it's like the hot spot in the world right now.
Well, it kind of is, but it's interesting because I've felt a pull there for a little while now. But I got to be honest, and I'll say this happily publicly, it doesn't have a beach.
Yeah, it does have. What it does have, though, is it's got Barton Springs. It's not exactly the same. Barton Springs is almost like in Melbourne, the Yarra River. But you can, it's full fucking like a healthy natural mineral springs that's like free before 8 o'clock. That's like probably a kilometer from the CBD. People go and just swing off ropes into this like cool fucking springs. It's like Barton Springs turns into Barton Creek, and there's this like strip of nature that goes up from this point of the main river. They call rivers lakes, so they call it like Lake Austin, but it's actually a fucking river that goes like on the south cusp of the CBD. It's got a lot. There's a lot of beautiful nature in this like green belt, Barton Creek location. I feel like I'm in the middle of the fucking like hiking in the middle of nature, and it's so close to the city. And there's a good chance that I'll move back to Austin later this year. I'm in Melbourne at the moment because I live there.
Well, I'll have to. I really would love if we could chat more about that, dude, because I'm not joking. So I'm going to be super like I said, I'm fucking open book. I don't feel like I want to move back to Australia. We've made great money with property there. It's been amazing. I love the land of Australia. I just don't feel like it's right for us to move back to Australia now. And we're trying to, like, as a family of six, there's six of us in this family now. I'm wanting to make sure that I can lead and make sure I'm taking care of everyone throughout the entire process as well. Mm-hmm. And so I feel the weight of it, of like, all right, like what's next? And there's so many factors when we literally try and be like, where do we want to go? And I was literally like, I think Austin is the highest one for us as a decision. And for a couple of reasons. I did a mushroom journey about a month ago. And the biggest thing that came to me was stop playing a small game, play a bigger game. It felt like it just kept saying the same message. And at one point I just said out loud, I get it, play a bigger game. Like, dude, I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just like hammering home that message. I was like, okay, get it, dude. And so for me, Bali has been amazing. We've got properties here. Like, we're constantly be coming back. 3 of my 4 daughters had a home birth here in Bali. It's a very special place for us. But I feel like I'm hiding, if I could be perfectly honest. I feel like I'm just not being the person that I really need to be. And it's had its purpose. And now it's time for a chapter change. And I don't feel like moving back to Australia is the right thing right now. I would love to live in a Spanish-speaking country. Spanish was my first language. My mother's Chilean.
The thing is that if you're in Austin, you can just back and forth from like Mexico to Mexico, and you can back and forth to Costa Rica as well, which is just like such a short plane ride. So easy access. So beautiful. There's so many different cultural things, and it's full Spanish speaking. And there's a lot of Mexican people in Texas as well. But the thing about Texas that I love is the range of different driven people. There's a lot of spiritual people, and there's also a lot of like driven mainstream people like Elon Musk, and then you got like your Joe Rogans, and then you got your like Alex Hormozis, and then you got your like your Aubrey
he's in
Marcus.
Vegas now. I was just messaging with him. He's in Vegas now. I was like, dude, I was going to catch up with him, but yeah.
I didn't know that. You got people like Preston Smiles and Garen Jones and Stefanos Sifandos. There's like this huge group of like embodied men that are into spirituality, business, health, family. And there's a lot of young families there that are just like emerging. There's a fucking crazy community there, and it's just going to keep growing.
I think you've made the clincher, Ryan. I think you've made the clincher, dude.
Well, I'm going to be jealous because my
situation. Does the state of Austin, can they give you a commission check for this? Because we should organize something.
Man, it's going to come back to me in positive ways, because I'll move back there at some point, and then I'll get hang with you there.
Even better. Exactly. Absolutely.
Which is like, and this is going to be a better place with you there. Like, seriously.
Well, sorry, can I just say one thing? Because I don't hear other people talking about this, and I could throw myself on the cross for this one. The biggest reason why I want to move is community.
Boom.
Hands down. I'm utterly craving that. I have 2 of my best friends that are here, like are an amazing men that I appreciate with everything that I have. But especially like as a family and everything, I'm craving community, man. Craving it. Like
the men's community there is
the top of the pinnacle.
Dude, the men's community there is fucking ridiculous. That's why I moved. That's why I originally, because I went there for 3 months, didn't sort out a long-term visa, and then had to leave to have a better chance of getting back.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the men's community was why I went there, and it changed my life. And it was like, I would go to these like community events, and there's people so inclusive there. Like I went to LA first, I hated it. Went to like for like a couple of weeks, and then I went to Austin, just introduced to a few different mutual friends, and they're like, take me out for dinner. Everything's so homely and welcoming and wholesome, and there's so much love that gets exchanged from in community there. That's the place to be. See you there soon, bro.
Yeah. All right. Sold. Do you know Alex Shafran?
I know of him, but I don't.
Okay. So he's a very close, dear friend, and I was literally just having a Zoom call with him 2 mornings ago, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're moving there because you're there." And everything and that's that inclusiveness part I find really interesting, because that's the exact experience that I had when I really started to spend a lot of time in the States as well. And I just found that really beautiful. Found it really, like, for me, it was opposite. We were really close to moving to Santa Monica 2018, 2019. And because like the first time I went there, it was like you meet one person, and then like suddenly I found myself, I was having lunch with a bunch of these people that I was like, I've looked up to for so long, and then would go out that night, go see a comedy show, and then they're introducing me to new people and everyone wanting to help. And I'm just like, I'm not used to this. I was just like, this is incredible. Like, and still to this day, they're dear friends. That's just a beautiful part. I just wanted to double click on that one.
And when I went there, it was during COVID, and the good thing about Austin and like the benefit of COVID is that because Texas and Florida were the two most favorable states for like freedom in America, it kind of like everyone else that was in our kind of communities started to either go to Miami or Austin. So it's like that the density of epic people has like increased in Austin and Miami, which is just a really epic perk. So the community is just like gone crazy. Like the men's community that I joined when I went there, which is led by like Preston Smiles, Garen Jones, Stefanos Sifandos, and there's a bunch of other like epic people in there.
I love Steph. Yeah, I met Steph here in Bali, actually. I'm actually booked in to see him in a couple of weeks, but sorry, keep going. He's incredible.
Yeah, dude. I love Steph as well. Community, they went in February to June or something like that. They went from like 0 to 800 people in their Telegram thread. Just organically of people that are just wanting to go to their workouts. And I showed up, there'd be 80 people on a Thursday at 8 a.m. just working out together in the sun. Like,
wow,
fucking sick, man. I think you'll love it. Anyway,
I think you've sold it.
So good. Fuck, dude. I feel like this is a beautiful place to land. So I just wanted to ask one more question. But before I ask this final question, where would you like to direct people off the back end of this?
So by the time this episode comes out, I would have launched the Chris Dufey podcast. And for many, many years, all I've ever talked about was business and all of that kind of stuff. And quite literally, I'm doing this new show purely for the fact to have conversations just like we're having today, and only just like we're having today. And actually, maybe this is something you and I can do. And so I've just got a super quick story.
Yeah, go for it.
Randomly, a couple of nights ago, like last week, I put the TV on with my wife and I put on Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Yeah. And I was like, this is hilarious and this is so good. But then I had this epiphany, and I was watching what he was doing, and I go, hang on. This is incredible. He's got the 3 things that he loves, and he's created a project for him just to be doing the things that he loves. He is in his zone of genius. And I go, this is incredible. Dude, I'm on the couch having like this. My wife and I make like this coconut milk and like reishi cacao drink at the end of every night. And like, I'm having this mad epiphany, dude, like losing my shit, being like, this is genius. And I'm explaining to Lauren, like, like what I'm joining together. And she's like, wow, that's actually really cool. And she goes, you should create yours. And I was like, what would mine be? And so, you know what I came up, and I'm legitimately going to start doing this. I'm going to do at least 6 episodes is what I've told myself I'm going to do. It's going to be philosophers going on a walk on mushrooms. I'm going to do a little sideshow, and I'm going to have my videographer with it. So we'll be mic'd up, and a videographer will have the camera on a drone, and we just go for a walk wherever we want to go for a walk. And we just talk about philosophy and all the good things that we want to be able to chat about whilst on mushrooms, preferably on psychedelic mushrooms.
Yes. I love that. Thanks for sharing, man. So that's going to be separate.
So if you go to the...
Is that going to be separate to the podcast? Chris Dufey podcast?
Yeah, the Chris Dufey podcast. I'll put it onto that show. So Ryan, when we can get together next in person, maybe it's going to be in Austin, we can do an episode, dude.
We can smash some mushies together and talk about
Absolutely.
Aristotle.
I make a really good cosmic tea. That's one thing I've gotten really good at.
Dude, I'm fucking massively up for this. So
can I share something super crazy with you? You're gonna lose your shit. Yeah. I just got a message. Just got a message from is my camera gonna come on?
It's blurry.
The camera's not gonna. It's blurry. Okay.
We're gonna
I
have
just
to
got a
trust.
message. Okay, I'll send a screenshot. Fuck you. You're gonna I'm gonna screenshot it right now. Fuck you. I just screenshot it. It's from my head coach, right? So my head coach, he's actually American. I flew him out from America to live here in Bali, like to me, so I could mentor him and go through everything. And he just goes, "I am in for a silly goose time anywhere, but I vote Austin."
To the town.
So that's really funny.
Where does all these little pieces of your reality, your universe? I'm just like a little piece of your universe. It's like another little. The universe is like, we got to put the message through some people. So like, Ryan, tell the head coach, tell Alex.
It's really funny.
It's all happening for you. Dude, before I ask my final question, I want to take a moment just to thank you so much for bringing so much beautiful vulnerability and honor you. I want to honor you for the beast that you are, because I appreciate the vulnerability and the open-heartedness and the curiosity and the willingness to learn and all these beautiful like pieces that are coming out from your current present moment kind of void / transformation. But I also want to honor you for just the fucking sexy, driven, successful, amazing husband, amazing dad, power life you've created of freedom and possibility, because it is incredible, man. And those qualities, I can't wait to see what them combined with all this newfound awareness and distinctions and stuff that are going to come through. It's really going to just jetpack the world in the best way. So honoring you so hard, man, and just thanking you so much for coming on.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. And like, look, just like we said in year 3, it takes one to know one.
Thanks, brother. Boom to the town. Go us. Final question. I bring someone to you. You can't see them. You don't know anything about them. You don't know their gender, age, anything about their life at all. But you do know that they want to give you $1 million for a consulting session because they want to attribute that much value to what you consider to be your like most epic knowledge bomb that could be in the form of like a piece of advice or a practice that you'd recommend that they take on board. Whatever you want to give them in exchange for that $1 million, they trust it, they back you, but it's not sculpted to who the person is individually. What do you give them in exchange for that?
Maybe that's what I give them. I give them silence. Maybe I don't need to give anything to them, and what they already have within them is what they actually need. They just need the stillness, silence, and spaciousness to already have it. Does it have to come from the outside?
Fuck no, man. That's such a beautiful answer. First time someone said that. And I was enjoying the silence, by the way. I was like, I'm going to make sure we keep all this silence in the cut of this episode because it's beautiful.
I would love to say something pithy because it would make my ego feel really good.
Yeah, man.
But I mean,
yeah, go for it, bro.
I like to believe that what we need is already within us. I know Rumi has a quote, something like that as well, but
like your daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, Dad, you've already got what you need within you. Stop looking for all these answers outside yourself. And you're like, oh, thanks, Rumi.
Yeah, she actually has some magical teachings, but she definitely does it in another way than the traditional Rumi. I like to believe that we have within us what we're really like looking for and needing and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, all we're really doing is people like philosophizing about this stuff and talking about it. We're just trying to point at something. Do you know what I mean? And then the sage points to the moon and the idiot sees only the finger. And I think that's where a big problem can come from. Do you know what I mean? Too many people are seeing fingers and they're not seeing the moon.
Yeah, man. And you're kind of like a finger in this case, and I'm liking looking at the finger and connecting with you as well. And I appreciate your pointings to the moon. It's been beautiful. So much wisdom dropped in this, man. I've had such a great time. So, brother, thanks so much for.
I appreciate you for having this space and for reaching out and for us connecting. And I know there's going to be a lot more coming, Ryan. So, thank you for your friendship, dude. And as we said at the start, we've known of each other for quite some time, and you're an amazing guy. And I know you've been on a great journey. I know you're giving tremendous amounts of value to the world, and everyone that's listening in should just continue doing exactly that.
Thanks, brother. I really received that. It's a pleasure to drop in finally together after being connected indirectly for so many years, like 9 years. That's a long fucking time. Still going. Wait, dude, just let this land for a second. We're still going to be doing shit like this for like the next 50. So imagine in 50 years, then it's been 59 years. Like, just being able to reflect on the wildness of that journey.
Isn't that cool?
So fucking crazy, man. Imagine how many people would have podcasts in 50 years.
That's bonkers. That is bonkers.
How many episodes we've both dropped in 50 years from now? It's like, what the fuck? Anyway, brother, thanks for jumping on.
Appreciate you, dude. Thank you, Ryan. You're an amazing human being. You're an amazing man.
Thanks, brother. We'll cut episode there. Yeah, dude, thank you so much. That was fucking sick.
Yeah, that was fucking radical, dude. That went super fucking quick.
It did, right? Hour and 20.
Fuck yeah.
I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with Ryan and myself, and I hope you were able to take a lot out of it, because I really wanted to be able to open up and share as much as I possibly could from this interview. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so, because it would be a bummer if you missed out on all the upcoming episodes. And also, if you have gotten anything out of this, if you're watching on YouTube, please comment below. If you're listening on podcast or Stitcher, please leave a review, leave a comment, and let me know what it is you're able to get out of it, and let me know what it is that you want in upcoming episodes as well, because I just really want to be able to hear from you. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.